Throughout history, few stories challenge our understanding of mercy like Uzzah's. He wasn't a rebel. He was a man who tried to help, yet he died instantly. Years before, the Philistines returned the ark on a wooden cart. It was a pagan solution that Israel would unfortunately mimic with tragic results. To understand the tragedy, we must understand the ark. It wasn't just a box, it was the mercy seat, the literal throne of God on earth. Where the ark rested, the glory of the Lord resided. It was the absolute center of Israel's spiritual life, a bridge between heaven and earth. On the lid were the cherubim, guarding the holiness of the presence between them. Their wings stood as a barrier between the common and the divine. God's instructions were specific. The ark was to be borne on the shoulders of priests using poles. It was never meant to be dragged by beasts. The warning was absolute. No one was to touch the ark lest they die. Holiness is a weight that demands total and absolute respect. King David, after establishing his kingdom, had a noble desire to bring the ark to Jerusalem and make it the city of God. He wanted Jerusalem to be the nation's spiritual heart. His heart was full of love, but his method was about to be fatally tested. David gathered 30,000 chosen men. He wanted the world to see that God was back at the very center of the kingdom's life. But a critical detail was missed. They placed the ark on a brand new cart, mirroring the Philistine pagan method from years before. It seemed efficient and modern, but it was a departure from God's protocol. They were handling the holy with a common, worldly tool. The procession began with immense joy. David and all Israel celebrated before the Lord with all their might and every instrument. The air was thick with the sound of praise. For a while, the celebration masked the error. Everything seemed to be going perfectly. Uzzah and Ahio guided the cart. It was the greatest day in the history of the new kingdom until they reached the floor of Nachon. As the road narrowed, the terrain became treacherous. The momentum of the celebration was about to meet a sudden and terrifying halt. Suddenly, the oxen stumbled. The cart jerked violently to one side, and the golden ark, the throne of God, began to shift. It looked as if it might fall into the dirt. In that split second of crisis, there was no time to consult the ancient law. Uzzah saw the danger. His heart was for the ark, and his intention was to save it. He reached out in a moment of pure instinct. He did what any of us might have done. He reached out to steady the presence of God, but he forgot who he was approaching. The moment his skin touched the gold, God struck him down. In an instant, the man who tried to help was dead beside the ark. The music stopped. The dancing ceased. A heavy, terrifying silence fell over the nation as joy turned into a paralyzing fear. David was both angry and afraid. He realized he had underestimated God's holiness. "How can the ark come to me?" he asked. The journey was abandoned. The ark was detoured to the house of Obed-Edom, left in the hands of a simple man while the king retreated. For 3 months, the ark stayed with Obed-Edom, and the Lord blessed his entire household. The presence that killed Uzzah blessed the faithful. Uzzah's intentions were good, but here is the truth. Good intentions are not a substitute for obedience to God's revealed word. By choosing a cart and then touching the ark, they treated the holy as something common. Holiness demands our complete submission. How often do we try to steady our lives with our own strength instead of trusting what He has already said? Human logic is no match for divine law. David eventually learned. He went back to the Word and prepared for a second attempt, this time with total adherence to God's way. He had the priests carry it on their shoulders. He learned that to enjoy God's presence, one must honor God's holiness above all else. The story of Uzzah remains a powerful guardrail for our faith. It calls us to a life of total trust and deep reverence, reminding us that God's ways are always higher than our own. Walk with holy fear and let His word be your guide.